here we are at the 2019 Kawasaki launch of this bike, the KX450. I'm Max, that's Bry. He's testing for dirt bike rider. I'm testing for TMX. Bry, how's your day been so far?
Beautiful. Look at the weather. Great facility, great track. Even better bike. What's not to like?
Obviously, visually, lime green, looks like a KX, and it is a KX, but there's so much about this bike that is different to the previous model. Headlines, 3.5 PS power up, so it's got more power than the previous model. And you can probably see here from the cylinder head, the cylinder head cover looks different because it's changed from bucket and shim valve actuation to finger followers, which is technology from Kawasaki's MotoGP and World Superbike effort. So those finger followers, they allow a much more aggressive cam profile. So power is up in all sorts of ways: larger valves, inlet and exhaust, more direct route for the downdraft of the fuel injection system. Not much about this engine is the same as 2018. Crankcases are different. Perhaps the only similarity is the gearbox and the gearbox ratios. So fundamentally different engine. You can see it's positively mounted now, so it's a stressed member of the frame, and that frame has also changed. There's changes to the rigidity of the headstock. You can see this rear section, the cross section has actually changed. And if you look closely, when you look in a dealership, the lower frame rails, they're forged, but they're a flatter section because obviously the height of the engine is slightly different. So having that flat section to the lower part of the frame means the engine can be positioned again in exactly the right place. Other highlight features: first KX with electric start. It's a great feature, and the bike can be started in gear. It does spin over really high, a good reduction ratio in the gearing. The battery only weighs 410 grams, so lightweight battery. It's also got a hydraulic clutch, which means that the clutch action is the same at the end of the moto as the beginning. A couple of more parts to show you, just nice little things about the new KX. The diameter of the front axle is larger now. That actually gives a better return of feel and more traction. The larger the diameter, the stiffer the structure. Final part to show you, new camshaft. If you get a chance to look at one of these, you can see how aggressive the profile is. That gives that extra power and that extra boost to the KX450. As far as the chassis is concerned, perhaps the biggest standout feature now is the return to a coil spring fork, 49mm shower unit, and nice big pistons in there, nice feeling. The reports we're getting back already, very good reaction to that new fork. So overall, very few parts carried over from the 2018 model, 3.5 PS power up, and extremely good reception so far from people at the launch.
At Uddevalla, testing the all new KX450 2019 model. This new bike, it is all new, isn't it? There's, I think, 3 things that haven't changed on it. They were saying this morning. Let's begin with the electric start, shall we? How cool is that?
Well, yeah, let's start with that because it's amazing. It's perfect actually. So far today we've rode the bikes probably all morning.
4 sessions I think we've had.
Yeah, every press of the button, everywhere you go, in gear, out of gear, everywhere you want to take it.
For the lazy riders, perfect, isn't it? Absolutely sensational.
I think for any rider who doesn't love an electric start.
Yeah. Another headline change was the hydraulic clutch. How's that for you out there?
Perfect. As a fairly aggressive X250 rider, I'm used to being a bit aggressive on the power. And sometimes when you try to put the power on the ground after landing from a heavy jump, you kind of have to clutch it a little bit just to keep things going forward. And often with cable clutches, you sometimes have to adjust it now and then. So the addition of this, the hydraulic clutch, takes that away completely. So, you know, not once today have I rode and looked to adjust the clutch or get a better feel. It's worked perfectly. It's done exactly the job it needed to do.
One of the main things I've been chatting about today is it's about 3 horsepower faster than last year's model. As an ex-pro, are you feeling that out there? For me, as a clubman, it's not that noticeable because I'm never going to wring the neck out of this as as you would be.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, the top end speed is definitely a lot quicker. There's a couple of fast sections here, and you can really crank the speed up and dive into the corners. But I think more noticeably for me is the torque curve. You know, it's not an animal off the bottom end. It's a little bit smoother. Preferably, for me, that's the way I like it. You know, I don't want a whole hit of power that's unusable, especially for a clubman rider. I think.
But for me, like I was saying this morning, it is very usable power delivery.
Exactly.
Isn't it? It's not scary. It's not like a bomb blowing up when you twist a throttle.
Totally. So even for me,
useful.
you know, an experienced rider, I like to put the power down nice. It does it well. It's not a handful, but it gets up to speed. And once it's going, it's going.
About handling. As soon as I rolled out the track this morning, I felt comfortable on the bike. I felt at home. How did you feel?
Love it. This morning I had to lead the guys out on a couple of slow laps just to make sure everyone, you know, I'm experienced with the circuit, so just to make sure everyone wasn't doing anything crazy on the first couple of laps, but I was dying to get going. You know, I'd done a couple of slow laps,
yeah, you went
and
right
second lap,
really
I was itching to do all the jumps straight away, felt right at home, pretty much from the first lap. So confidence-wise, it done everything for me. Ticked all the boxes. The new forks, excellent. The shock was set up fairly good for what I wanted, and yeah, just handling, all-round feel, ergonomic, everything, great.
You made a couple of adjustments there in that last session. Do you want to talk about that?
Sometimes, like I said, it's sometimes difficult when you land off a big heavy hit. Everything rebounds, obviously. It goes in deep, it rebounds, and it's hard with any 450 to try to put the power down and get going forward again. So I slowed down the rebound a little bit on the forks just to take that pop back out, and it worked magic. Even diving into the jumps, it done something which for me I wasn't expecting. It pushed me forward instead of going up, and then landing, I was straight on the gas, no more sort of clutching it just to keep the front end down. So the small change that I made, I mean, it was minute. It was clicks on the rebound, and that was it. That's all I've done all day, and I'm really happy with it.
Braking is pretty fantastic there. We've got bigger brakes front and back, I think. So, and you really notice that out there.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, it's quite common that that professional riders or expert riders may upgrade the size of the front brake disc to a larger one, and this year they've done that as standard. So it takes away, you know, that need to upgrade anything really. So the brakes are definitely improved. I think they've got a new front master cylinder as well, I'm sure. Yeah, so front brake, where you do all your stopping, everything works excellent. Rear brake, again, also working really well, no complaints. Overall, 2 thumbs up for me.
Overall, there's no really negatives, just you saying a couple of niggly bits, like you may want this a bit more curved, bars a bit different, but that's just,
I mean, that's me trying to find something that
yeah.
I can find negative about the bike, which is really difficult. So I think the only thing I found was I would maybe have put a slight bend, an extra bend in the front brake lever. But I mean,
that's
really good. You could break that falling off on your first day. So, you know, that is really superficial and doesn't really count for anything. So otherwise, everything's great. You know, we've got new rad shrouds, which I've not caught my legs on. You know, that's quite common to catch your legs when you've got it real high. It is fairly rutty out here today. None of that.
Probably the last thing we should mention, they have dropped the F.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that's one of the big things. We've dropped the F. It's not 2-stroke, it's still a 4-stroke, but they haven't made a 2-stroke in a long time, so they don't need the F to discern it as a 4-stroke
you haven't
anymore.
spoke to them before. It's just a case of they put an F on the end of it many years ago to build, you know, so someone could determine what was a 2-stroke and a 4-stroke. No need for that now because they don't make 2-strokes.
And it's a big signifier. New bike, new name. There we go. So we're gonna hit the track again soon and have some fun this afternoon. But for now, you can see Bry's full review of the KX450 in Dirt Bike Rider magazine
next month, I believe. Yeah.
And mine will be in Trials and Motocross News next week. So yeah, that's a wrap for now. Let's hit the track. Cheers, guys.